Everyone talks about how much money you make when you sell a house, but today we're going to talk about the money you need to spend to get there. There are some sneaky selling expenses that catch homeowners completely off guard, and I really don't want that to be you. Hi friends, I'm Corieburck, a local realtor here in Yakima, Washington, and one of the biggest ways I love to serve my clients is by preparing them for what real life looks like, not just the HGTV version. So today we're walking through the unexpected costs that come with selling a home, why they matter, and how to plan for them so they don't derail your plans. So let's start with one people almost never think about, but it makes a huge difference. And that's the storage and decluttering expenses, because lived in is not the same as show ready. Most homes don't look like model homes, and they shouldn't. They're lived in. They're full of memories, personality, and stuff. But when you're selling, the goal is to make your home feel spacious, neutral, and move-in ready. So that often means decluttering more than some people expect. And when there's nowhere for that to go, hello storage unit. Now that could cost anywhere from $75 to $250 a month. And sometimes it requires getting movers to be able to move that stuff in there. And sometimes multiple months, depending on the time it takes to sell and your closing timeline. So I've had clients who say, hey, we're just gonna shove things in closets. And I love them. But buyers open closets. They open pantries. They look in garages. Clutter says this home does not have enough storage, and that can absolutely hurt your sales price and your time on market. So a tip here is, if you don't want to rent storage, declutter early. Donate what you can and pack like you are moving anyway. It's just pre-packing. Future you will thank you. Next is staging, even if it's partial staging. Staging is one of those things people just assume is optional until they compare a staged home to a vacant one. Even small staging matters. So think furniture layout that makes the space feel bigger, using your existing furniture even. Neutral decor, rugs that define rooms, lighting to warm up spaces, art to create an emotional connection. This isn't about making your home fake. It's about helping buyers emotionally connect and visualize their life there. And staged homes sell faster and often for more because it is easy to see that. So the cost there really depends. Sometimes you might just be able to get by with a consultation only. A consultation only means they're going to use your existing items. They might give you some advice on strategic things to purchase, but they're going to say, hey, declutter these things, move this furniture this way, and this is going to help your home feel bigger, and it's going to be better prepped for that showing process. There's also partial staging, full staging, and rental lengths if the home sits longer. And even if you don't fully stage, most sellers still end up buying baskets, pillows, light fixtures, and a few decor items. And those things even add up too. Next is the cosmetic prep. The little things that are not little. This is paint, flooring, touch-ups, replacing broken blinds, updating old light fixtures, refreshing trim. These are not glamorous, but they absolutely affect how buyers perceive value on a home. So some examples of this. Fresh, neutral paint can make a home feel bigger and newer. The carpet cleaning versus carpet replacement decision, depending on how far gone your carpet is, it may make more sense to do a replacement rather than just a cleaning, but at least a cleaning is usually advisable. And then fixing all those little, we've lived with it forever lists that sellers stop noticing. Like, I notice little things like my strike plate doesn't just quite close right on my laundry room door. I've lived with it forever, so I hardly notice it, but a buyer would definitely notice it when they came in and they went to close the laundry room door. Now, costs here can vary from a few hundred to several thousand, depending on what it is that needs to be done. Paint alone can go a long way, but it often protects tens of thousands of dollars in equity. So I always tell my clients, buyers are not just buying the house, they're buying how the house feels, and clean, fresh, and well-maintained feels valuable. The next thing is deep cleaning and window cleaning. You truly do not realize how dirty your house is until there are professional photos and strangers walking through it. This often includes things like really good deep cleaning, baseboards, appliances, bathrooms, windows inside and out, and possible pressure washing. Now, I highly recommend window cleaning. It sounds really, really silly when you have all these things to do, but when you see the before and after and see how it changes the light and how it hits your home, photos pop way more with freshly cleaned windows. Next is curb appeal and landscaping. Buyers make a decision within the first few minutes at a property and within the first few seconds sometimes of pulling up to your home. So that moment matters. This can include things like bark dust and mulch, fresh plants, tree trimming, lawn cleaning. It can include paint touch-up or exterior trim or front door touch-up. It doesn't need to be a big budget. It can be quite a small budget, but it does pack a big emotional punch. It is the first impression of a buyer to your home. Think of it like a job interview. You would never show up to a job interview without being dressed for the part. Next is pre-inspection or surprise repairs. This is where a lot of sellers get caught off guard, and that's inspections. Even really well-maintained homes often have safety updates, systems aging out, roof wear, plumbing adjustments, GFCI updates, or just things that homeowners forget about over time. So there are two paths here. I go into more details with this when I work with a seller, but there are two paths. You can get a pre-inspection done, be aware of everything that is going on with your home that at least one inspector found. You can address things. You can give it to the buyers when they come, tell them what things you addressed. So that's one thing. The second path here is you can wait for the buyer's inspection and you can deal and negotiate everything then. I am a very big fan of a pre-inspection if handled correctly. That is a more in-depth conversation on the seller front. Happy to do that if you want to do that. But it's a more in-depth conversation. But those are two paths there. Neither is right or wrong. It really depends on your house, your market, and your strategy. Either way, you should probably budget for something here. Next is vacancy carrying costs. If your home is going to be vacant, you're still paying for it. So you need to have the utilities on, including the heat in the winter and the AC in the summer. You can be a little bit stingy with your thermostat settings by all means, but you want people to be comfortable when they're coming to view the property, and you don't want things like pipes freezing. You also have yard care to look at, possibly cleaning services, or possibly security or monitoring. And it's often forgot because mentally sellers feel done emotionally with the home they're leaving, but financially it is still theirs until closing. Next is temporary housing, or even 2 mortgages or 2 payments at least. This is for people moving from one home to the other. Now, 2 common scenarios here. The first is you buy first and you end up with a potential double payment for a while, or you sell first and you may need a short-term rental, Airbnb, storage, pet boarding. Sometimes this can also be chaos. They can both be chaos. These are not wrong choices. They're strategic decisions, but they have financial weight. There are many other options that I look at with sellers when we go into that process, but those are 2 common ones that happen. You can also sell contingent on a purchase of a property. So there are a lot of factors there that really depend on the individual sellers involved. I'll go into more in depth on another video with this, but it's something that any seller should really be talking in depth with their realtor and their lender about to see what their options are in their unique financial position. Next is transaction fees that people forget about. Even beyond commissions, there can still be additional costs depending on your situation. So some examples here might be HOA doc fees, seller concessions requested by the buyers, title and escrow seller side fees, septic pumping and inspection in some areas, well tests depending on your areas and how the contract is structured, recording fees, a warranty if it's something that you're offering as part of the sales or if it was negotiated. These aren't massive individually each, but they can really add up. Another one that I like to talk about here is a special assessment. If a special assessment has been levied against your property and you are closing on your property, typically the buyer is going to ask for the special assessment to be paid off in full at that time. So if the special assessment was quite large and it is levied over several years in your property, it actually might be a big chunk out of your bottom line. These are usually put into place when you're in an HOA or in a neighborhood where an improvement or a repair was made that cost the nearby properties money. Next is taxes that might apply. This is where we do not DIY Google. We do not use ChatGPT for this. Capital gains rules can be nuanced, and FERPTA tax applies in certain scenarios. Everyone's situation here is different. So I just want you to be aware of, if someone's concerned that you're going to have to pay one of these taxes, you need to talk to a CPA. You need to talk to them early, and you need to talk to them before listing. You need to know your net instead of guessing going into the process. Now, this isn't meant to scare anyone. Selling a home can still be incredibly profitable and life-changing, but this is about being prepared instead of being surprised. So when you budget and plan for these things, selling becomes calmer, smoother, and much less stressful. So if you're thinking about selling in the next year, whether locally here in Yakima or beyond, let's talk early. I love sitting down and walking through expected numbers, timelines, costs, so you can make confident decisions instead of reactive ones. Now hit like if this helped you, and subscribe for more real estate education. And if you're local and want to talk about a selling timeline, just reach out at corieburck@gmail.com. I'd love to help. See you in the next one.